Hey, fifth and sixth graders, good morning. I have a very cool problem for you to do today, and I love this problem. It's called the honeycomb problem, and what I really want to talk about with this problem is not just solving it, which I think will be kind of interesting, and I think all of you are capable of figuring it out, but also how we create a strategy for problem solving, or what strategy do we take when we problem solve. So think about that as I'm talking to you about the problem and explaining it to you and what you need to do. I want you thinking about, how would I solve this problem? What would be my strategy? So this problem is from a workbook I have about Boomerang, and Boomerang is this guy, this cat that looks a little drowsy, a little sleepy. He looks a little happy right there, kind of like, oh, everything's good. And Boomerang would like to solve the honeycomb puzzle to show Miss Potia Mouse that he is smarter than he looks, but the sweet smell of the flowers and the drone of the honeybees makes him drowsy. Help Boomerang solve this puzzle before he falls off to sleep. So far, that doesn't give us any information other than it's a honeycomb, right? Which we love, those six-sided shapes that all fit together perfectly. So cool, right? It looks like a lot of games that I play where they set it up like that, like a game board. But so it's a honeycomb, which is like in a bee's thing. And then let's look at the details. The details. Fill in the remaining sections of the honeycomb so that the honeycomb contains the numbers 1 through 19, each used once. Oh my gosh, that's really important. 1 through 19, each used once. Notice some of the numbers we've used: 1, 2, 7, 8, 11, 12, 14. So that seems to tell me that I can't use those numbers again. And the only numbers I can use are ones that we haven't already used, right? We can't use them over. Every row, vertically and diagonally, must have a sum of 38. Oh my gosh, another great math word, sum of 38. A sum means the numbers must add up to 38. So when we think about vertically means up and down. So like when we talk about vertically, we might be talking about like this row right here. That's a vertical row right there. And if we're talking about diagonally, you're talking about maybe like this row here, like that's a diagonal line, right? So these are what we're talking about in terms of what needs to add up to 38. So notice in this first row or vertical row, we only have 3 numbers, yet in this one we have 5, right? Now let's look for another one. Look at this one. This one has 4 numbers. But what did we just say? They all, each of these rows needs to add up to 38. We're going to write that down here. That's really important. This idea of equaling 38. Okay? Now, that's kind of interesting, right? So I'm going to back up a little bit, get rid of those lines on there. There we go. We get to get rid of all of them. And we're going to talk about like strategy. So when I think about this, I have some restraints or limitations. And one of those limitations is every number only once. So each number once, right? Each number, uh, 1 to 19, no repeats, right? No repeating, right? So you can only use each number once. And another limit or constraint is must add up to 38, right? Now, that makes for an interesting puzzle, right? So what I'm going to ask you to think about is, how do I start a puzzle like this? If I know that each diagonal, each vertical, that means my up and down, vertical is up and down. That's my, what did they say? Vertical row, right? Vertical, okay? And diagonal. So my diagonals must add up to, each one of them must independently add up to 38, right? We need to then figure out what's the strategy. How should I go about solving it? Should I just come in here and just draw in a number? Should I say 13 and put it there? Does that make sense to do that? Probably not. Like, what are the chances that I'm going to be correct by putting it there? Or if I come over here and say, well, I haven't used 15 yet, let's use it. Like, that's probably incorrect. The chances of me actually getting that right are very slim. So that might not be your best strategy. Maybe your strategy should have to do with looking for something about the spaces. Like possibly you look for a strategy that maybe one diagonal or one vertical line is easier than another, right? So my expectation in this is that you won't get it right the first time. Like if I need to fill out the numbers 1 through 19, my guess is that 19 is not going to end up here. But I could try it And I can say, well, if I add up 19 there and add these two up, I get 19 and 15. Well, that's getting me really close to 38, right? 19 and 15 would be, oh, I think 15 and 15 would be 30. And then another four, that's 34. That means maybe this could be three and this could be one. But the problem is I already used the one, so I can't do that. So what I find is if I just drop numbers in, it's not a very effective way to do it. So what's a good way to solve this problem? What's something that you might look for as a starting point here, right? We know that these three numbers right here have to add up to 38, but so do those three, and so do these five, right? See if you can figure this out. See if you can figure out a strategy. Now, the second page of this problem, which is really just as important as the first, is answering questions about it. So I'm going to go to this page. After you finish it, I want you to do this page of the problem. Describe what the first three steps were to solve this problem. Okay, and I think I missed a word there. Describe what your first three steps, I think I need to write were. Sorry about that. Describe what your first three steps were. Or no, describe what your first three steps you took to solve. Yeah, my grammar on that is all messed up. Maybe I'll try to fix it before I put this out to you tomorrow. Describe what your first three steps were to solve the puzzle. That's going to be like you're going to write like one, two, and three. Here's what I did, right? And then which are easiest? Which of the diagonal rows are easiest to solve and why? Which of the vertical rows are hardest to solve and why? I want answers to that. Like which ones are best and why? Which ones are most difficult and why? And then how does making a list and keeping track of numbers help you solve this problem? So those might come into some of your strategies, right? What did you do first? How did you do the problem? And then we'll talk about what does that mean as a problem solving strategy. I love problems like this. I love things that kind of make us like work a little bit, but they're also not super complicated. Like there's a couple ways to do it, but you know what's interesting about this one? There's a couple ways to get to the answer. There's a number of ways to get to the answer, but there's probably only one arrangement of numbers that actually works. Remember, no repeats. You got to use every number 1 through 19. And if we've already used it, you can't use it again. And every vertical row and every diagonal row has to add up to 38. Okay? Pretty interesting problem. I hope you enjoy doing this. I hope you find the solution. And I hope you're kind of like, maybe you guys can work in breakout groups. Maybe you can work with a friend. But make sure that you're kind of digging into this and seeing what you can figure out. All right. Have a great day, everybody.